Hello friends, I'm Coral. Welcome back to my channel, and I'm here today with another trope video. It feels like it's been a real long time since my last trope video, but I'm here today with a new one. This time I wanted to kind of explore books that are told from the perspective of somebody who is a serial killer. There's lots of horror books where obviously people are being murdered by other people. There are like slasher books and stuff like that, which is told from the point of view of the victims. But these ones I was looking for are specifically told by people who are serial killers. I always try to do a good mix of like more older vintage horror and some more modern horror. This one worked out perfectly, 2 and 2. So which one should I start with? The first one here I have is Zombie by Joyce Carol Oates. This was published in 1995, so I guess it's like not super vintage. That's not very old at all when I think about it, but it's not exactly modern anymore. This is basically about a Jeffrey Dahmer type character, and we're following him through part of his life. It's a fairly short book. Actually, all of these were fairly short. Let's see, I don't even think this one was 200 pages. It was 181 pages. This story is about a man named Quentin, and we're reading this. It's told from his point of view, obviously, and it's these journal entries. So right away, you're thinking, maybe this isn't super reliable. At least that's what I always assume when I'm reading journal entries from a character. And he's had some problems in his life, but none of it are like problems surrounding trauma or anything like this. It's like problems that Quentin has created because he's just kind of a bad seed, and he very much comes off as a narcissistic, a socio or psychopath. He's kind of telling you part of his past and some crimes he's committed, and he's also telling us about his current day situation, where he's living, what he's doing for work, some of his family life, and kind of like a little project he's doing, which is stalking a teenage boy. So this gets a little bit gruesome. There was definitely body horror in this. This is based on what Jeffrey Dahmer did to some of his victims. So if you know anything about that, you know how icky that is, like putting chemicals into people's brains to make them zombies. Trying to make them zombies. So yeah, I'm not really a squeamish person, but there were some parts in here that was like, ugh. I didn't end up liking this a whole lot. The writing was okay, but Quentin, I just didn't really like him. And it's not that he was an unlikable character, because I really actually tend to like those kinds of characters in books, but he was just very whiny. He was immature. He was just so disconnected from the world, and I understand that that might come with some of the personality disorders this character has, but I just didn't, I don't know, I couldn't really like him. There's this big build-up towards him maybe trying to capture this boy he's stalking, and that whole event is just, it's like when you're about to sneeze and your sneeze doesn't happen and you're just like, ugh, and it's like this really bad, like unsatisfied feeling, you know? It was like that. Like it was like I was gonna sneeze and my sneeze went away, and that's what I was left with afterwards. It was just unsatisfying. It was so much build up to just like a ending, you know? It just, I don't know. I was so disappointed in how this ended up. But I will say, It was a very fast, easy read. Like I said, it had some body horror, which I know some people like. I wouldn't say that this is necessarily a badly written book or a book that is not enjoyable, that some people wouldn't enjoy, I guess. I was just so disappointed with how this plot went, I guess. I don't know. Okay, next I have As Seen on TV by John Wayne Comunale. This is the first book I've read by him, and he is an indie author. When was this published? I think 2019. So this one's really new. Yeah, 2019. And this is another novella. It was very short, but this one actually felt a little bit longer than it should have, I think. This story is told from the perspective of a man named Artie, who is a serial killer. He is also really kind of obsessive compulsive. He is obsessed with As Seen on TV products. He obsessively shops for them. He obsessively finds the best way to use these products, because a lot of the times he thinks it's not exactly how they're advertised. It's like you have to use it enough to unlock this special knowledge of it, and then like as a prize for being so smart, the manufacturers only let the people who are smart enough to figure it out. I don't know, what am I trying to say? It's like, I don't know. Cut it. He really likes As Seen on TV products, is what I'm trying to say. He one day wakes up and sees a man looking in his window, and he's like, what the fuck? Because he doesn't know this man. There's nobody on his street as far as he's aware who looks like this. He's like, why is this guy looking in my window? It doesn't make sense. And it kind of all evolves from there. Like, I don't want to tell you too much about what happens here in this first confrontation with the man in the window, because I think that if you really want to read this, maybe you'll want to keep that a secret. Maybe I should keep that a secret for you. So that's really like the plot. That's the plot. It's like him trying to figure out who this guy is and trying to confront this guy. And there's some good descriptions of the man in the window. He's like all pimply and greasy, except for his hair. Artie kind of gets obsessed with the idea that like maybe this man is the reason he hasn't been caught for killing people, because he's been doing that for a while. He's killed quite a few people, and he uses his As Seen on TV products to clean up his crime scenes. So he's very, very clean. I hate this. I hate this. I feel like the last couple trope videos have been like this, but I didn't like this one a whole ton either. I thought it was okay, I guess. My main problem is that I thought that this was going to be more of a book about, because the synopsis led me to believe that I would be hearing more about Artie and his crimes, but it really became kind of like a more introspective thing with the main character, and I don't know, it felt longer than it should have. I feel like there was so much of this conflict with the guy in the window, just like them fighting and stuff, and I don't know, I didn't really care for that, I guess. Read this for yourself though, if this plot sounds interesting at all. Like I said, John Wayne Comunale is an indie author, so indie book sales are good book sales. So, what am I trying to say here? I didn't really care for this, but that's not to say that others won't. I just didn't really get what I was looking for from this. Okay, next I have Dexter, Darkly Dreaming Dexter by Jeff Lindsay. This was published in 2004. As you can see, this is the book that the show Dexter was based off of, one of my favorite shows of all time, but we don't have to talk about the ending, because that was really awful. This is about Dexter Morgan. He is a blood analyst, a blood spatter analyst, He works with the Miami Police Department, and he also kills people. But he kills only people who he knows for sure has been doing bad things. He was brought up by an adoptive by his father, who adopted him. And his father was a police officer, so he kind of gave Dexter these set of rules to make sure that Dexter won't get caught. So Dexter has still kind of abided by these rules even as an adult, even as his father has been dead. That's what a lot of this first book is about learning about his past and about his life now, and how he kind of tries to blend in with society, you know, how he's been taught how to appear normal. Even though I've seen the TV show, this book was still such fun to read. I really like the Dexter character, like just the way he talks, the way Jeff Lindsay has written his dialogue, and it's really good. I especially liked listening to the audiobook of this because it's narrated by the author, so you really got a good sense of how exactly Jeff Lindsay made this character to be, because I had read this previously, probably like 6 or 7 years ago, and I thought it was okay. But then after reading it again and listening to the audiobook this time, I liked it so much more because I got like Dexter's affect, you know, and it's kind of like funny and upbeat, and he's just like too fucking cheery to be a serial killer, you know. So that was a lot of fun. The ending is much different than the way that, well, I guess the ending of this book is much different than how the first season ends. And then the books since then, I've read the second and the third so far, have been totally different than the TV show. So if you were thinking like maybe you wouldn't want to read this because you already know what happens, you don't know what happens. This is nothing like the TV show so far. So really good, fun. These are like pretty short, they're easy to get through, and I would definitely recommend checking out the Dexter series. Okay, the last book I have here is The Lost Factory by Ian Banks. This was published in 1984. This is the oldest book on my list today. Let's see. This takes place in Scotland, and we are reading from the perspective of what's his name? Dang it. Frank? I believe the main character's name is Frank. It doesn't really matter, I guess. So Frank, I think, is in his late teens, and he has kind of this really strange life. He lives near this small town, but his house isn't necessarily in the small town. They live near a beach, but it's Scotland, so it's not like a California beach, you know what I mean? It's windy and kind of dreary and rainy. And he doesn't go to school. He has been sort of educated by his father. His father's also very strange. His home life is strange. He was kind of abandoned by his mother. He has an older brother named Eric who has been locked away for some crime. And so it's really just him and his dad. And his dad doesn't really want him interacting with a ton of people. So once in a while, Frank will go into town or into one of the bigger towns he lives near, but mostly he's at home, and he does lots of weird fucking things, like pisses on staffs he's made to infuse them with his power, and built a death factory to put bugs inside to tell the future. And he's very superstitious, and I don't know, it's very weird. He hints that he has killed people, and I don't know, it's so I still don't really understand the character, I guess. He's just kind of a fucking weirdo. And not like the kind of weirdo I'd want to hang out with. So in the beginning of the book, you find out that the older brother Eric has escaped from prison or whatever kind of institute he was in. And Eric is very off the hinges. He calls Frank and is just wild and aggressive and just suddenly flies off the hook and stuff like that. He's intense. And so they're kind of a little bit worried that Eric is going to come home, but also kind of want him to come home and kind of don't want him to be caught again. So that's kind of strange. So this is really, I mean, I feel like that's the major conflict in this, is that we're building up to the point where Eric shows up. And along the way we get bits and pieces of Frank's past, some murders Frank may have committed, the weird things Frank's doing in his day-to-day life now, and I don't know. This was another fairly short book. It's novella length. It's less than 200 pages. But this one got a little bit sloggy. It got caught up, the author gets caught up in these like really like these descriptions of things that are so detailed, and it's like I don't necessarily want to read 5 pages of the main character strangling a rabbit. I'm sorry, there are children screaming outside. So, oh yeah, that's another thing. There is some cruelty to animals in this one. Nothing you can't skip over though. That does tend to bother me, but that doesn't affect my rating, I guess, because I can just skip over it. And so they're building up to this conflict where Eric comes home, and then there's this twist at the end that I just thought was super like distasteful and strange. I kind of, in the back of my mind, maybe thought that the twist might be the twist. Like I maybe in the back of my mind maybe saw it coming a little bit, but I was like, this is really kind of far-fetched, and then I don't know. I didn't care for the ending at all. The conflict definitely fizzled out. It was like, well, this happened, the end, and I was like, what? So I thought it was okay. There are some really interesting parts, but also quite a few parts that were just very hard to get through, just slow and too much description, and yeah, just kind of sloggy. So this one, kind of middle of the road for me. I can see why people like it. I see this a lot on like the top 50 horror books of all time kind of a thing. I'm glad I read it. I've had this book for quite a while, so I'm glad I read it. And that concludes my exploration into books told by serial killers. I will be back again. I think next time I'm going to be doing something a little bit different, because it doesn't necessarily have to do on a topic, but more like a thing that I've seen in vintage books, which are these really stark white covers and you can barely make anything out. Like, let me find one. Like this one, Twins by Barry Wood and Jack Giesland, not Gleason. You can't, there's like some faces here. I don't know if you can even see it, but I found a couple books like this. So I think this is what my next trope video is gonna be about. Okay, anyways, way off topic. That's it. I will see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I hope you're staying safe and healthy and staying inside your houses and reading lots of books or doing whatever kind of fucking craft you want to do, or play video games, whatever. Just keep yourself happy and healthy. And I will see you guys later.